Alrighty, and welcome back, guys, to episode 4 of On the Hook, my Dead by Daylight podcast. So today, as usual, we have some guest speakers discussing everything Dead by Daylight. Specifically today, we're going to be looking at Chapter 18 and some of the issues that's caused with the game. So stay tuned, guys. Okay, so welcome back to episode 4, guys, of On the Hook. So today we have our usual guests. We've got Potatolegion, CptSalty, myself, and then we've got Tericho, who's agreed to join us today. So that's very nice to speak to him. So Tericho, would you like to introduce yourself to anyone that might not know you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Tericho, however you want to say it. I am a Dead by Daylight killer main. I do play Survivor sometimes as well. And I'm also a very grumpy video game critic on YouTube.
We've seen quite a few of your videos, so I'm expecting quite a lot of the things that you've said in the videos to probably come out in this podcast. So really pleased to have you on. First things first, then, guys, we'll talk about Chapter 18. What's your thoughts so far? So I know we've discussed it before, but it was mainly the PTB. So Chapter 18 came out on Tuesday. What do you think?
Disaster. One word. Disaster.
I like that one word.
Yeah. Absolute joke. I think if you're going to have a PTB that is less buggy than a version that you roll live, you're doing something extremely wrong. There is no point of having a play it, test, build, and inviting everyone to come on to test the server if you're going to release something 10 times worse. You can't play Legion. Barber is messed up. Trapper, I believe, is messed up on console players. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are tons of bugs that need to be addressed as soon as possible, especially the ones that actually break the game for killers. I've not touched Legion because I'm too scared that I'm going to lose every single game because his power doesn't work. A positive, I want to stay positive as well. The twins are actually a really fun killer to play. Even though Victor gets stuck in the ground 1 in 3 times, when I do actually manage to use him, he's extremely good and it's really fun to play. And I've actually, unfortunately, only gone against the twins once. It's like when you play Survivor, no one is playing the twins right now for some reason. I've only had 1 game against the twins, and it was probably my most fun game I've played on DBD in a very long time. Just because Victor coming at you from nowhere, jumping at you, is just extremely fun. But I'm sure that'll get tiring very, very soon because he is very overpowered in 1v1. There's not much you can do other than spin him at this point in time. Overall thoughts on the chapter is, if it wasn't buggy, the new killer would be fun to play. But it's so buggy that the game is unenjoyable right now and just frustrating to play.
So I actually want to agree with basically everything Potato just said. I really like the new killer. So when they announced new killer and I was playing it on the PTB, I was like, this is incredible. This is completely different to any other killer we've ever had. This is 2 killers in one, essentially, and it's going to allow new avenues of play that we've never seen before. And that's all true when they work. But I don't think I've ever... I started playing in 2018, and I don't think I've ever seen a patch be just this buggy. And as Potato was saying, the fact that it's not even just the new content that's so badly broken, it's almost every killer at this point has some form of bug or game-breaking thing in the case of Legion. It's like the whole game is a mess. So even if you're somebody who wasn't even interested in the new chapter, if you're like, I don't really like that new killer, your game is still broken right now. And I think that is crazy how badly broken it is. And as you said, even the PTB wasn't this bad. The twins were, they were buggy on the PTB, but as far as I'm aware, the other killers were fine. So I don't understand how it's happened, how it's broken the game so much.
It's easy. It's the code they use. It's like the same code that the Isle used as well. And I want to talk about the Isle for a minute because they had the same issue. Every time they released a new dinosaur, they broke something else in the game. And to fix that, you need to have a new code that is working on actually updating the game regularly. You know, if like it can't be that everything that worked before or didn't work. Like sometimes maybe RNG like trapper traps that you can place on the ground and survivors just go through them and they don't activate, or they activate and survivors lose because of that. It's like a 50-50 chance if they activate or not. And now it's like on some maps they don't activate at all. Like they just are in the ground, and then if the survivor runs over them, it's like basically it doesn't do anything because the trap is in the ground. And something like that you can just basically every killer is like has a bug. Like it's not even like there's no killer that is working correctly right now. And that garbage should not be released. Like, it should not be. Like, they should just like realize that they have to take time off to fix the game and fix that issue with like, if you bring a new thing into the game, that you break anything else. And it's like, I don't know how they do it, but like they have to fix something about like how they do updates. And to say in the patch notes that they know the issue that Hoarder is not working and then still releasing the game is, you just don't release a game that's not finished, like not a patch that is not finished.
Yeah.
It's just like cash grab in this moment. And I haven't played the game since the new chapter launch because I'm pissed about behavior and I don't want to support that shit. Like, they can stuff that 300k blood points in their ass. I'm still criticizing them whenever I see it because that's just stupid what they do.
Yeah, I mean, going back on a couple of things that people touched upon there, Potato, in regards to the twins, I've played Survivor quite a lot. I mean, again, I'm the same as you. I haven't really touched Killer because I'm just worried about all the different bugs. Literally every killer that I normally play as seems to have a bug. So I've been playing a lot of Survivor, but I think after playing since 1st December, so we're talking about 5 nights, probably less, 5 nights, I've come across the twins twice in all that time, and I'm playing about 3-4 hours a night, so it's not like a short time. So it is quite amazing how obviously when a new killer comes out, normally that killer you playing quite a lot, but the twins don't seem to have been available that much. The other thing, obviously, I'm conscious about the 2 videos that have been put out. So Potato, you put a video out, and I will link it above. 147 bugs at counting, at last count, I believe. Is that right, Potato?
Yeah, that's right. Someone actually done a forum post labeling every single bug, and he's done. You linked it actually, Jay. It was really helpful.
Yeah.
So 2 pages, over 140 bugs so far, and counting. And I've had people comment on my YouTube channel that they found more.
Right.
So it's just, we're constantly stumbling across more bugs. The game is in the worst condition it's been in since I've started playing, which is over a year and a half. Not looking good right now, for sure, and it's putting a lot of people off. And the fact that no one's playing the new killer is actually quite worrying. It just means that this chapter has done really poorly in terms of sales. No one's buying the new killer. No one's playing it. I mean, when Pyramid Head came out, my God, you saw Pyramid Head every day for like a week. It's quite a disappointing chapter for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the other video I was going to touch upon, Tericho, I loved your video using the restaurant as an example. One thing, I mean, moving aside, I remember sniggering to myself because I thought, well, you've used a restaurant as an example, but us Brits are renowned for having really bad tasting food, aren't we? So it's like, I was just quite conscious that you'd put that on there, and I thought, yeah, that made me laugh a bit. But you put a video on as well, and I will link that as well, about the fact that they've released something that's not complete. Now, personally, I could understand 1 or 2 things if it was stuff not complete, but it's actually quite a lot of things. It's quite scary. 147 bugs at last count, and probably more than that now. So where do you think we go forward with this then? I mean, some people are saying that the hotfix isn't even going to come out for a few weeks, possibly mid-chapter. You know, what do you guys think about that?
Like, there are some things that we have to consider here. It's like, people bought the new Elodie skin, and like, if you pay the best money for bringing such a buggy patch out live without like fixing it before it came off the PDB on the live servers, like, why should anyone pay them money right now? Especially for a fucking skin that doesn't do anything for the balance of the game or for the problems in the game. You know, it's like, and they always say like, oh, you can't buy the chapters with like for free. No, you have to play for a lot of time to get those iridescent shards to get a chapter. And people that are not playing that much and are like sometimes off, like, I don't want to play DVD because it's depressing, frustrating, and stuff like that. They don't get those 9k iridescent shards for the new chapter. So most people that actually play the new killer bought it for real money, and then they get such a disappointment. And I can understand when people say like, I'm done with Dead by Daylight, because I'm done with Dead by Daylight as well. I was done. I was like on the way to just quitting the game overall, because it would just get worse over the years. Like, it started with stuff like it wasn't even the start of the Halloween event. It was just like this, they don't care about the customers. They just want money, and they have a schedule that they want to hold. But even though they know they can't hold it because right now it's Corona pandemic, so everyone would have understood that when I said like we can't get the chapter 18 out in time, and we don't want to give you unfinished product. But they don't give a shit. They just give you the chapter. People paid money for that, and now like everything is broken. And I can understand when people say like that Palette is dying, because it is. And if I say that Palette is dying, I mean the original players that haven't even touched the game since like they changed Ruin, for example. It's like they don't give a shit about their original player base. They just want more money by getting new players to the game, and are not interested in holding people that actually played the game a lot, like me or Tericho, or I guess a lot of people from the German community that I'm a big part of, and I was when I still played the game on high level. It's like they all said like the Ruin rework like just killed the thing, and it's like now it's a buggy mess that you have to pay for if you don't have the ERS charts, and then you get like 300k for like, oh sorry, we are aware of this bugs. It's disgusting.
The thing that baffles me though is that people have been asking for a health patch now for a while, and for me, I was getting to the point of where I was like, the Blight chapter was bad enough, where I was like, they really need to fix the stability before they really look at adding in too much new content. And obviously they've been adding in the battle pass, they've been adding all this other new things, and I think the only way we really go forward from this chapter is now a full health patch. I think that if behavior could turn around and say, hey, look, we realize that was not good enough, which I don't think they ever will, because they tried to acknowledge it in the Q&A stream. They tried to say like, oh, this chapter is not great, but they never said we're sorry, or we understand that this is really bad. They just said there was an above average number of bugs, and that's all that they said. And so if they were to turn around and say, look, we understand this was not good enough, what we're going to do, and I know this is going to cause some complaints, because people will complain if they're not going to get content, fast enough. That's always going to be the case. But if they were to turn around and say, hey, look, to fix this, we're going to, the next patch, major patch that comes out is going to be a community health patch to fix the game, so that everybody who's stuck by this game for 4 years, or however many years, can actually enjoy the base game, and then we'll add new content later. I think that would be absolutely fine. I don't have trust in behavior that they're going to do that. I just think that they see a spike in player base every time they release a new character or a new chapter. And I think that they're so afraid of losing that. And this is one of the reasons why I made the video talking about the beginning of the end of Dead by Daylight, even though that was a bit of a, it's not. The game's actually got more players now than it's had for a long time. But the point is if they continue down this road and they're not improving the basic game, even though a lot of people are being turned away, it is going to have really long-lasting consequences. Like CptSalty said, you've stopped playing the game, and you're clearly very, a very passionate person who loves this game because you're sat on a podcast talking about it. And if you're not playing it, average Joes who just play it a couple of times a week, they're not going to be playing it either.
They probably still might, because they don't care about balancing or about if they get something for their money, because most of the time in the modern gaming world is like people just play a game for having fun, or just having a good time, or like chilling after having a work day that wasn't that cool, and they just want to chill out a bit with playing games. And those people, they don't care about like if things are buggy or laggy or are unbalanced on a higher level, because they never reached that higher level. And there were like people like True Talent, Scott Jund, that always told them like how they think the game should be with the 2K to escape should not how the game should be, because in the 2K there are so many variables. Like you can get 12 you can get 9 hooks, and people get out, and you get perform far better than the survivors, and you still get 2K in the end. But you can also get Noed, 2 kills with Noed, and you didn't do anything as a killer the whole game. How is that fair? And the whole thing's like you have no real reason to actually play the game a lot and get better, because mediocrity is getting like rewarded. We have perks like D-Strike, when the killer catches you, you go on the hook, you got unhooked, killer catches you again because you're out of position, you punish the killer for that. Then you have board time. You can actually literally unhook in front of the killer, and the guy that's unhooked isn't punished by your mistake, and say unhooking right in the front of the killer. And if they go on this trip, you actually see that they don't give a shit about the balancing, and if skill matters, if a better player wins in the end, is determined by RNG and by stupid things like perks that should not be in the game or something like that. And in a casual environment, people don't care about that. Like they think, oh, that hard least strike is such a good perk. But if you really think about it and how many times you lost to that perk, even though you played really well and better than the survivors, you feel like they don't understand what balancing really means. And balancing doesn't mean a 2k and 2 escape. Balancing means the better player in the end wins. If the survivors outperform the killer, survivors win. If the survivors make mistakes and the killer outplays the survivors, the killer wins. That's how a game works. And if you balance around people that don't know how to play the game, like how will you ever fix like top tier play where I was before I stopped playing the game? I was in the top 5% of players, and I had to play against sweaty squads all the time. And even though I outplayed them, in the end I got 2Ks out of that. I'm not happy because I played better than them, and they just like did gens in the end and then escaped. But that's another point. But back to the
yeah. See that brings us on to like something we discussed before was what would you class as a win? I totally get where you're coming from, CptSalty, with that. Where I am with it at the minute is I've been pretty happy up until the release of this chapter. And that's what's been disappointing is that I've always tried to stay positive about a game. And I get the impression, Potato, you were probably the same. You know, we are new content creators. We do rely on Dead by Daylight. You know, that's a community we're trying to build. But to find that with the release of the chapter, it's come to the point where I'm actually like, yeah, I don't really fancy playing Killer anymore. It's quite sad, actually. I know, like I said, Potato, I know you'd mentioned it earlier about the fact that you haven't played Legion, for example, and things like that. So it's quite disappointing. Something that came to mind, I think I was talking about it's in your Discord, Potato, with one of your viewers. Is it a case of the developers need to start being more open with people? I mean, for example, I've sat this year and I've given the benefit of the doubt. And I've thought, actually, okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic. They're working from home. Could this be causing problems? So I'm sort of having a look to try to not defend them as such, but to try to put some rationale behind what's actually happening. But it seems to be, and it was disappointing watching the question and answers because, like you said, Tericho, they sort of brushed it aside and said the wording just didn't sit right. It was like, yeah, we've had an abnormal amount of bugs that came with this. We're really sorry. And that was sort of the tone that was said. And I was like, guys, why can't we just put our hands up and just say, you know what, we're really sorry, we're going to try to fix this as soon as possible. What do you guys think about that?
I think they don't take it seriously. As you said, I started to watch the Q&A for a little bit, and I was hoping most of it would be about them talking about addressing bugs and what went wrong with the chapter, and people were asking questions in the chat like, when can we play Legion again, or when's we going to get a quick hotfix? And they were answering. What made me switch off was somebody asked a question about Dwight in a maid outfit. I just went, "What's cosmetics and jokey cosmetics got to do with anything? Like, you've got such limited time to answer these questions. You need to be answering the serious ones about your game." And it just seemed like they didn't care at all. The fact that they rewarded 300k as a sorry isn't good enough.
Yep.
I mean, everyone here in this chat and probably in the community would have waited a month or a couple of weeks for a completed version of this chapter. But funny enough, I actually spoke to somebody on the official Discord, one of the staff members. I actually managed to get in a conversation with him. And I said, what's the excuse for this? And they said, well, it's because of licensing issues. And I mean licensing issues as in getting it ready for console, Xbox, and I think Steam. They have to give them a date as to when they're going to have a chapter released, and they have to abide by it. So I think there's a lot of time constraints that they've set on themselves. Instead of openly admitting, damn guys, we're a bit in trouble here, we may need to extend the licensing fee somehow, I don't know. They just sort of rushed it. And it seems like they've released this version without even like testing it beforehand, because we all know this is way more buggy than a PTB. So not a single staff member has gone on or tried to play the game before it's been released, because I don't know how you can release it with, for instance, Legion being twice as slow as he should be, you know? Overall, they're not going to take responsibility. I can see them just brushing this aside and offering us more cosmetics or blood points. I really don't see the next health patch actually fixing all of the issues. It might fix some major ones, but there'll still be little bugs in the game that can ruin a game for people. So honestly, my hopes are not held high for the next hotfix, if I'm being honest.
Same.
So one thing that I really don't understand though is you say that I've seen this actually be talked about, the licensing issues, is how can Cyberpunk 2077, a whole game release, a huge massive game that also has licenses because there's licenses music and all that kind of stuff, how can that be delayed several times and yet Dead by Daylight can't delay a chapter? Now, because they don't even tell us when the chapter is going to come out until it's usually about a month before, right? It's 2 weeks until they announce the PTB about 2 weeks ahead, and then the PTB comes out, and then it's usually about 2 weeks after the PTB that the chapter comes out. So they don't even give us concrete dates on when the chapters are coming out. So how can they not delay one? And what you said about testing, you're absolutely right. There is no way that this has been tested enough, or it either has been tested enough and they just released it anyway. Because my first match, Scott John's first match, and plenty of other people I've spoken to, their first match, they noticed horrendous bugs. So if we're noticing it on our very first match, this isn't like it's a hidden bug somewhere that no one found. It's very common, very across the board, and almost the entire game is very unstable. So if you tested that for an hour, you'd have realized that. So there is no reason for me that they couldn't have delayed it. And if it is a licensing issue, then I'm sure these licenses would understand. I mean, if we're talking about the licensed killers, for an example, I'm sure they would be more happy with the game being in a stable state, because at the moment, nobody's going to be buying any of these licensed killers anyway. So I'm not sure what license the issue is, but they need to sort that stuff out, because I've never seen this in any other game. I've never seen another game release content in this state and then say, oh, but it was a licensing issue.
Yeah, I mean, for me as well, when I heard again, Potato, I think you mentioned it during the week when we were talking about it, and the whole licensing issue thing, actually, it didn't feel right, because it sort of meant that, okay, we've got license issues, but we don't actually care about our consumers. We've got two issues here. We've got a licensing issue, but we're going to mess the game up, make sure everything's come out, keep the licensing side happy, but it's sort of taken us for granted, if that makes sense, as consumers, that it's not, you know, they're breaking the game for us. And when I say break, and this is the big thing, I mean, I've wrote a couple of things down, you know, Legion, we know of. Trapper, I know people are saying they can't see the aura of his traps, they can't pick traps up, they can't place traps. So they're like game breaking mechanisms that are just going to spoil the game, spoil certain killers. So it doesn't really wash for me, the whole licensing thing. And as I say, it makes me think, if that's the excuse that they're saying, that they're maybe taking us for granted, like as consumers.
Yep, exactly. That's what I think as well. It's like the whole issue with the twins right now are the same bugs that already were on the PTB. Like Victor is growing into the ground. Victor sometimes is slow and can't really use a power. It's the same things that were the issue with the killer on the PTB. But like now they're like, oh, we can release a new chapter. And oh, Eludia has a new skin, and people will buy that skin, so we release it anyway because it brings money. You know, it's like that's how they think, and that's I don't believe them. It's a license issue, because if it's a license issue, I think if they would say because of it's our games right now, it's like it's such an unstable thing. We saw so many bugs on a PTB, we can't make this thing. I think Steam wants people. Wants people to play the game and be happy about that, instead of just paying money for DLC where people say bad reviews about it and then like uninstalling the game because of a buggy patch. You know, I think everyone that is like wanting to promote games and publish games out, like Steam or like Microsoft or Xbox or Sony on PlayStation, like I think they will understand that if the game is in such a state of like, if the tests were so buggy that they can't release that yet and they have to fix the core first, it's like, but they don't want this. Like they could easily say, okay, because of pandemic issues, maybe one of our devs has like corona issues and that's why we have like one dev less and stuff like that. They could lie to us if they want, and we would still understand it because we want the game in a better state. And if they take time to release the content and maybe like push away the schedule for like 1 week or even 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, and then release a chapter that is actually not buggy at all and has no issues whatsoever, like no new issues, like fixing all the issues with a new patch, people would be more happy about the game.
I agree, and I think that even further goes to the point of, well, if they did just release this because they wanted the money, they would have made a lot more money if this chapter was working. Because I don't know if the devs know like how much of their game sales actually rely on content creators, but there are some huge content creators out there on YouTube and on Twitch who literally make sales for them. You know, the new chapter comes out, and then True Talent, Scott Jund, Oddstava, all of these people are playing the new killer, and they're going, "Oh my god, this killer is so much fun! Here's this new build that I came up with," and then all the people in the chat are going, "Oh, I'm going to go buy that." And as people have already said in this podcast today, like you when you're playing Survivor, you're rarely seeing the new killer, so it's clearly not sold very well. So they clearly aren't making as much money as they could do if they'd just taken another month or something. So I really don't understand. I can only honestly assume that there's got to be some bad management somewhere. There's got to be somebody in the company who's making these decisions just doesn't understand. And I honestly have a feeling that the person who's making that decision on when the chapter is launched is not a developer, because I feel like the developers of this game know how bad it is right now. And you don't want that. If you're a developer, you don't want your game to be this bad because it looks bad on you. You know, you made it. It's bad. I can only imagine that there's just some really bad management going on in the company. And I don't know. I don't want to be conspiracy theory, but there has definitely been a correlation between some investment from certain big companies that I'm not going to mention and name. But there's been some heavy investment from some companies into behavior, and the quality has dropped significantly since then, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just touching on that, guys, I believe, again, I'm not going to name the investors and things like that, but Space Coconut released a video on this, and I think he named everything. So if you're unsure, you can always check out Space Coconut's videos, and I think it's one of them. It might be about 2-3 months ago he mentioned this, and he did go on about the investors. He believes the same as well. So we're thinking health patch. So just from what we've come up with now, we're saying that the way to fix it, I mean, obviously, CptSalty, you've told them where to put the 300,000 blood points. I think Potato, you were the same there. So are we saying the way forward now is a health patch? That got mentioned on the very first podcast by Tat, and it was basically said that it was done on a different game. Tericho, I know you review a lot of games and you've probably got a lot more gaming background than what I have, but I can't remember the name of the game now, but there was a game that was mentioned. PUBG, that was it, yeah.
And Rainbow Six Siege as well from Ubisoft.
Yeah. So they basically went through and said, we're going to fix our game. And do we all agree that that's something that behavior needs to do?
Yeah.
I think that's just the start, honestly. I think that's the start to claim back the goodwill that they've lost in the last few months. Because obviously, you know, I complain a lot. I'm very critical, but I've only been doing that for the last few months. It's only since I got really annoyed at the game, and I know a lot of people are the same. I think that's the start. They should do that as a promise of saying, okay, look, we've understood, we've not done the best. We're gonna fix the major problems with the game, the major bugs, get rid of 99% of the you know, obvious bugs in the game, and then going forward, we're gonna QA test. We're gonna, whenever we have a chapter, we're gonna make sure it's ready before we release it, and that's gonna be the standard that we've now set from the health patch. Because if you do a health patch and then the patch afterwards is as broken as buggy as the one before it, then there was no point. So they, like that, the health patch is great, but it is just a start for me.
Like they lost me when they reworked Ruin, and they mentioned why they did it, and this was fully not understandable, because first of all, you never find Ruin in low ranks. That's not a thing. Like, and if you find it, you will get prepared for what you will see in the higher ranks. So it gives you like a motivation to get better at the game. But like I said before, it's like it's kind of, they cater towards mediocrity. Like if you suck, you should still have like a chance to get out alive. But no, if you suck, you should die. That's how your game works. Like if you are a bad player and the killer outplays you, you should die. You should not get out alive because the devs think, oh, everyone should escape or everyone has the chance to have fun in this game. No, like if you play a game a lot, you will get better eventually. If you stay against like getting better because you are like, oh, it's not fun if I know what I'm doing. Like then don't tell people what they should do. Like you can't listen to those like bad survivors that can't hit great skill checks if there are like a lot of top tier survivors that can hit great skill checks. And Old Ruin was not an issue on high end or on high ranks anymore because people were able to hit great skill checks. And it's like play your game, have like a testing team that plays the game more and understands why things should be balanced. Problematic things should be balanced, not things that are unfun against.
Yeah, well, they sort of have that at the moment, in my opinion, in regards to the Fog Whisperers. So I'm imagining that should be part of the things that they do, but I'm not sure, I'm not really delved into the Fog Whisperers role too much. But I always think, and I don't want to go too much into this, but with the balance, I do think they have the work cut out because they've got such a range of different ranks, and we discussed them last week with Lydia, didn't we? How would we change a ranking system? We'll move on from the bugs then. So I know some of you have already touched on it. How are you finding the twins for the people that have played it? I know CptSalty, you haven't played as them as yet. I know Potato, you've touched on it, and Tericho, have you? I don't know if you've played in a Tericho or not. Have you used them at all, or?
Yeah, I've played a few matches. Honestly would have played quite a few more if they weren't so broken. But I really like them. I think they're not a very strong killer, and I think a lot of that comes down to a lot of their hard counters that they have. The locker being one, and there's others. Victor is very strange because he's very, very powerful, but he cannot deal with most windows or pallets because of how his he can't break them, and so if he can't jump over it, he's a hard counter to him. And I think a lot of this needs looking at, but at the same time, we've never really had a killer like this. And the closest thing we've got is Hag, but Hag only teleports between one location and another. There's never been a killer that is split into two. And the few matches that I have played, I've been really enjoying trying to think ahead and go, okay, so I know that the survivors are on this generator and the shack's right there, so I'm gonna go and play Charlotte in the doorway to shack. So if they go over there, the shack is now pretty much useless to them. And then chasing with Victor and swapping between them, and it's such a really interesting killer. I genuinely really, really like them, and this is why, not to go back to the bugs, but this is why the bugs are so frustrating, because there's plays that you can make with this killer that no other killer can do. And I really like finding that out. And there's certain loops that you can just completely just ruin for the survivor. And I like that a lot. And yeah, she's fun.
I agree. Yeah.
She is a really fun killer. And the fact that you can control two killers is really, really cool. I'm going to have to counter you there about the windows and pallets. If you actually time your distance right, you can actually vault over and catch them on windows and pallets. It's very hard to do, and you will mess up 9 out of 10 times, but you can do it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. There's just a certain when I said you can't deal with pallets and windows, what I meant more was that you can't break them as Victor, and also you have to get quite far back. You can go through windows, but you have to go quite far back, and so good survivors, like top tier survivors, they're just gonna move before you do it.
Yeah, or be waiting there and kick you in the face, which is a really good mechanic. If you can kick Victor, I think he'd actually be broken to should be S tier. That mechanic alone makes us sort of balanced. The fact that you can kick Victor, because he's the ultimate camping little shit. And if you there is a bug right now, I don't want to mention bugs, but if you down somebody and then move Victor to a hook and then hook them, he can stay there and be like your little watchdog. But obviously if you hook them, you can't place him next to the hook because the game doesn't allow you to camp. There's like an aura around a hook. You're not allowed to place Victor, but the way around it is by doing that. So I've noticed the main strength with her is when you slug somebody with Victor and you leave him around a corner and somebody comes in for a save, you normally get another down with that down because somebody's trying to rush in because you've got no tear radius. They just assume you're not there. And a lot of my games, I'm slugging a lot with this killer, and for that reason alone, she's very, very strong, and I'm enjoy playing her.
No, that's good to hear. Obviously, I haven't put in as much time. I think I've probably played her about 3 times, but I am I know we seem to always go back to the issues. I'm currently stuck in that grind. I know, Tericho, I know you've mentioned that before about a grind on your videos. So just trying to get the blood points to try to unlock, and it is getting so frustrating. I think I was talking to you during the week about, it wasn't a CptSalty, when you get like level 1, then level 2, then level 3 of monstrous shrine. It's like, come on, get me something decent. So I haven't put as much time into her as I should have, but I am getting there. A couple of things then. These are coming out literally from the question and answers. So we've got a few reworks, and I just would have liked to have got your opinion on how you would rework the certain killers that were mentioned and a certain perk. CptSalty, you'll be happy about which perk it is, but we'll leave that to the end. So Clown Rework. So they gave us a bit of a tease. I mean, a tease was a bit of a nothing video, to be honest. So what would you have as a Clown Rework if you were a developer and you were in charge of changing it?
I just think Clown needs something else, because I know this is gonna be a very vague answer, but Clown has one thing and one thing only. He throws his bottle slows them down, and that's it. And if you look at newer killers that have been developed, I know you guys have talked about Freddy in the last episode. And Freddy is now apparently getting a nerf, which is good. But the newer killers that they make, Pyramid Head, Freddy, and so on, they have so much things to do. Like Pyramid Head, he's got his cages, he's got his M2, he's got his built-in Mori, and then you look at Clown, and he just has bottles. That's it. And so for me, I think Clown just needs something extra to do. And people have made all sorts of suggestions, like maybe he could, place traps bottles around, so you could place one in the shack and then they run through it or something. Maybe from looking at the teaser, which was nothing, I mean, it had a yellow cloud, so I'm assuming he's gonna have different types of bottles that do different things now, and it seems like you'll be able to switch between them, which could be very interesting, because if you had a bottle that did something different to just slow down, because I think a lot of really good players don't really mind the lack of visibility so much, so all it really does is just a minor slowdown. Being able to do other things instead of just slowdown would be really cool, but he just needs something. He just needs something different that isn't just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, the problem is Clown is really good in 1v1, but that's it. Like, if you play, you have to understand that, like, you have 4 survivors, and you have no map pressure, so you can't pressure the rest of the survivor team fast enough. And that is, like, you have a decent chase. Like, these bottles are really good to deny people from loops, but what else do you do as a Clown? And I think the 2 bottles it's like, what's not overpowered is 1 bottle is on cooldown and exposes the survivors when on hit, and the other exhaust them. That would be cool. Exhaustion and explosion in the base kit, both on cooldown, and then normal bottles.
I think I also had the original idea, well, not original anymore, but I was actually thinking the whole different bottles thing that he could switch out. I'm hoping it's not just 2. I'm hoping it's like 3 or 4. Maybe 1 that he throws when he's in the cloud himself, he gains like a speed boost, or when he hits the survivor, they get like sloppy butcher effect. I'm hoping it's actually something in his base kit and it's not add-ons like Freddy with pallets. Something that he could swap out. Maybe yellow gas, for instance, stops survivors vaulting, or there's plenty of opportunity to make him more variable and different by giving him different bottles. I was also thinking maybe something good could be that the more he spends the time in the gas, maybe, as Salty said, like, the condition could be once he's been in the gas for a certain period of time, his next hit will be an insta-down. Like, he just gets off on the gas and he gains so strong, he can just insta-down the next person. That could be pretty cool. You have got to be careful for how long the Clown has been in the gas for. He does need something else for sure. So either one of those 2 things would be really good for him, I think.
That still would not fix the 1v4 issue. Like, it would make him far stronger in 1v1, but what do you do to give him, like, control over the game? Like,
so one thing that would really help with that, in my opinion, is so the way that works at the moment now is whenever you throw a bottle at someone and it hits them, they scream, and pretty much you can hear it from the other side of the map. And I think that gives the survivors information at all times, because you always know you're safe to work on a gen if you can hear the survivor screaming at the other side of the map. So I think reducing that down to a very short radius would give him a little bit of help, so he can actually not be, survivors are going to have to be a bit more careful of, like, oh, am I safe on this gen or not? But yeah, you're right. I mean, most killers that have map pressure have movement. and that's what they have. They either have movement in blinks, or they can teleport or whatever. And short of giving Clown some way of getting around the map faster, there isn't really any way of giving him map pressure aside from, like I say, placing bottles somewhere so you could lay traps, or there's no other way of really doing it. Well, and there are ways of doing it, but there's no way that's easy to think of without, giving him some form of movement speed increase, or let him teleport like Freddy does, or something like that.
But that would be boring. That would be the same thing as Freddy. Like, Freddy was like, what do we do with Freddy? Oh, give him traps or let him teleport to gens. Let's do that. And now he's broken. Like, what the fuck? It's like you just recycle ideas that like already in the game. Like, Freddy had that issue as well. Like, how do you rework this character to make him stronger in chases? And then, oh, he has everything now. Slow down because of the dream world. Then you have like slowdown of chases. They scream, so you know where they are. You can teleport to the gens, so you can easily kick them with Pop Goes the Weasel. So the pop nerf wasn't even like that bad for him. So like, and that's like that. You would just make the killer broken with that shit. And it's like,
well, it'll be interesting to see. We are going to come on to Freddy in a second. My ideas for Clown, and I said this on a video, it was 6 months ago. It was when they'd first announced that the Clown was going to be getting, I think he had his bottles changed in regards to when he held them, he didn't slow down. For me, I think Clown, and it might be, a few people disagreed, but I don't like the reload time of the bottles. Obviously, with the teaser of Give, it is going to be obvious that something's going to happen in regards to different bottles, but my counter to it was always, I get why Deathslinger has to reload. I get why Huntress do, because they're going to they're going to down you with them, with the powers that they have. But the Clown, like we've already said, just slowed you down with the bottles. So it was like, I always thought the reload. I played Clown the other day with an add-on. It made such a difference to the game. I could put both games in comparison to say, this is without the reload, this was with the reload add-on that made it quicker, and the difference in the game was startling. That for me would be something that would be great to see it not removed completely, but just reduced right down. The next killer that was mentioned on the question and answers was the Wraith. Now, I might be reading this into this straight away, but the clue that was given was true invisibility. So what rework do you think is going to happen based on that clue, really?
You can't see his invisible aura. He is literally just invisible, which would be absolutely terrifying and allow a lot of... Well, camping is very easy on him anyway, but they can now patrol and camp while completely invisible. I think the problem with Wraith is his base kit with no add-ons. He is extremely, extremely weak. He is too slow base, and he's so easy to counter. I don't think anyone can do exceptionally well red ranks with his no add-ons, because he's just that weak. He's basically just an M1 killer that gets a little bit of a sneak up on you. He's got nothing really going for him.
He's got to have, for me, he's got to have a Windstorm. Is that the add-on that you mean, the Windstorm?
Yeah, the speed add-ons, yeah. I mean, when he has them on, he's like 10 times better, but no killer should have to rely on add-ons. Their base kit should be somewhat playable, but for Wraith, it's insanely difficult without add-ons. So, I mean, I might be wrong here, but I've played a bit of Wraith, and yeah, he is very weak base. And
he's the problem. So I agree with what you're saying. I think Wraith, when they talk about true invisibility, he's got 3 counters to his invisibility. Already you can see him. Most good survivors can see him coming a mile away because he shimmers. Second of all, you can hear him. You can hear him snarl, which he's louder now than he's ever been. And then third of all, a very, very, very common perk for survivors to run is Spine Chill, which will always tell you when he's looking at you and heading over to your gen or whatever. So true invisibility to me is getting rid of all 3 of those. Take away his sound, take away his shimmer, and then also make it so that Spine Chill doesn't work on stealth killers. I think that was what McLean was alluding to, because a lot of people have said for a while, why the hell does Spine Chill and other objects and so on, why do they work against stealth killers when the whole point of a stealth is to be stealthy? I think Wraith is one of those killers where he's so dependent on who you're going against. If you're going against top tier, you're basically screwed. And you have to work so much harder with Wraith to win. It always begs the question of why, unless you really want that challenge, why would you play Wraith?
Because he's fun. Like, he's pure skill. That's what I like. It's like his ability doesn't help you in chases. I said it in the last podcast, but I can always like repeat myself. Like killers like Wraith, that should be the base thing that a killer should be. Like if a killer is really strong, like if a player is really strong, the killer makes like a huge difference. You should not have good killers in the game, because if you are a bad player and you play a good killer like Freddy, for example, which is just fucking easy to play and has a high win rate, even though potato killers can play him and still 4K. But like Wraith is just the design of like just pure skill. You just have nothing to get your mistakes out. Like if you make a mistake, it's even harder for you to catch up to other killers. Like Pyramid Head, if he makes a mistake in a loop, he can just swing his punishment thing and can still maybe hit a survivor if he's guessing. But Wraith can't do that. That's the whole thing. It's like the base game of when the killers were announced, the game was around like survivors trying to avoid the killer at all costs, and that's why Wraith was pretty strong. But now it's like you have so many perks, like you mentioned, Spine Chill, Object of Obsession, Kindred, which tells you where the stealth killer is. And now it's like you are basically just a guy without the power, and in chases you are weak because you don't have anything in chases. But it's also the thing why I think killers are pretty hard to play, but also like satisfying if you get it, because if Wraith, like a killer like Wraith is pretty easy to learn but hard to master. And if you get this done on higher levels and get really good with Wraith, you will notice that you have like pure skill, and you have to have knowledge about everything on the map just to play good with him. And yeah, I just like Wraith.
You've mentioned Freddy a few times there. That was probably me, Potato Killer, can get 4Ks with Freddy, no problem. Probably need to get good with the others. Freddy nerf. What would you nerf about him then?
Remove his ability to teleport to gens. Simple. Or get rid of his snares. He is a really strong on 1v1, and he is insane at map pressure. I don't know what to change, but the fact that he can just teleport to every gen, and there's so many perks in the game that notify you when a gen is almost done. Tinkerer, Barbecue and Chili, Discordance. Freddy can just go there instantly. So maybe remove it altogether and just focus more on his 1v1 potential, or make it so it's longer, the duration from where he can teleport, because he can teleport basically every time he's hooked somebody. So he's constantly applying pressure to people on gens. Yeah, I mean, Freddy is pretty busted. I think it's his teleporting that's more broken than his chasing potential.
First of all, I'd fix his lunge animation, because that's been broken for a while, and it always looks like he doesn't hit you, but he does. Yeah. I think, as I was saying before, I think Freddy just has too much, because something that not really many people really talk about when they talk about balancing with Freddy is his natural inbuilt slowdown, because a lot of survivors will try to wake up. And if they don't try to wake up, there are add-ons that punish that. And so that's just free value that you get just for playing as Freddy. And I don't think that's very fair. I think the old system where he had to put you to sleep, at least he worked for that. And, you know, he had to do that to you. So then if you had to fix that, that was because he managed to catch you. Whereas now, like, you fall asleep every minute. And it's just... it's too much. It's too much, especially if that Freddy has then brought, you know, this is the reason why Forever Freddy is so frustrating, is because if there is any add-ons in play that make sleep bad, the time you have to spend not only running to the specific box on the map and then having to, you know, do the animation of it and hopefully you don't get caught on the way, and then you do wake up and then a minute later and you're asleep again. And it's just, it's too much. As you've already said, he's got really good movement now where he can teleport to gens, which is limited because, you know, he can only go to gens that haven't been completed and so on. But then he also has his snares. So he has like everything. He just does everything with base kit. So add-ons are just icing on the cake for him. And I think that's not really fair.
I also think that they should make him work for his success, because the old Freddy was, I love old Freddy. Like, I had 1K hours, I can always repeat myself, but like, it's just like you had to work your ass off to actually get something done with him, and you had to control the pace of the game to get it done. And now it's like you get free sleep of the whole team every 30 seconds, I believe. If you get the survivor, you can place snares in before the chase actually begins, and they are slowed down. So his chase game is now A tier or S tier even. And before this chase was the worst part, but he had anything else. Now it actually has a gen teleport, which makes no sense because Freddy in the movie didn't do that, so why should it in the game? And it's like they should make him a bit more towards like what he was in the movie, like this powerful machine that is like really strong in the dream world, but he has to get you in the dream world. And that's what I liked about the old Freddy, and I want them to go back to more of the old Freddy. Like, not make him garbage, abysmal, F tier and chase, but like reduce his actual power that he can work it. Like, I like Oni, for example, because he has to work for his power. He's just a basic M1 killer with like, he can track the blood after he hits his survivor, those bubbles. But he is nothing. He has nothing for him until he gets his power, and that's what I like. And that's how they should design killers, in my opinion. It's like, don't give him immediate power, let them work for it, and that's how you split good killer players from bad killer players. Because bad killer players won't get that far because they can't do anything because they don't know what they're doing. But good players that get actually hit, that constantly get chases really quick and stuff like that, the Oni is powerful on them. But if you see a potato Oni, you are not fearing that guy because he might get one ability in the end game if survivors are stupid and play overly altruistic in the end game. But a bad Oni will never get this value of snowball potential than a good Oni player. And that's why I think they should redesign Freddy or give him more towards he has to work for it. Like, remove his gen pressure with the teleport and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, going off, if I take a bit from what everyone said there, yeah, I think if you change his teleport to maybe have a longer time, that'd be interesting. I do like Tericho when you said about the putting them to sleep. Another one that, because he is powerful when you're asleep, you know, that's when his snares work, his fake pallets. Another thing that was mentioned on one of my videos before that someone commented, I think it was Tat that commented on it, and he said a simple nerf would be to change the wake up mechanism. So at the minute, the alarm clock is over the other side of the map from where you are. So if you change it so you can literally either go to any of them, or it doesn't automatically make that one, you know, the other side of the map to do it. So you've still got to wake up, but you're going to have a better opportunity to do that. So there's a few different things that you could add to him there. Okay, I did say we we're going to mention this at the very end. So DS rework, again, that was a question that was, I seen pop up on the question and answers. Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unanimous there. So what changes would you have then?
So I think it's simple. Once you start a gen or start being productive and you're not being tunneled, you lose your DS strike. Lockers don't work either. That's it. That is the simple fix. It should stop you being tunneled. That's it. If you stop,
100% agree. So, like, I Scott John put out, in my opinion, the perfect fix to this perk. And for anybody who's not seen his video on it, essentially what he said was that if you are in chase, that your decisive strike lasts forever. So you could run the entire match with your DS up. If that killer tunnels you that hard and you outplay them for that long, like 7 minutes, then they pick you up, you still have your D strike, right? But if you do any action, any meaningful action, you heal somebody or you get on a gen or that, you lose it straight away. Because that way, it truly is an anti-tunneling perk. So if the killer is like, I'm just going to kill you because I hate you for whatever reason, then yeah, you're going to be able to use it on that killer. And it's actually going to be better than it is now, because one of the worst things about Decisive Strike is if the killer does tunnel you and you manage to extend that chase for more than 60 seconds, you actually then get punished, because when you finally do go down, you don't have your D-strike. So at the moment, it doesn't really work as an anti-tunneling perk. It really works as an aggressive perk, and that's not fun for killer either. So I think Scott John's idea is just honestly the easiest and simplest perfect fix for it.
I had the same idea. I mentioned it on the previous podcast. I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but I said it, make it more powerful. Make it, if you make it an anti-tunneling perk, but make it like really powerful. Like, make it permanent, but like if they do any action, like even healing, sitting on a gen, you just like it's deactivated. So because right now it's like, even if the killer chases the other person for 45 seconds, then goes back and gets your ass and then picks you up and you still get D-strike, which is like, you didn't tunnel it, so why should it be activated?
Can I just say, what about endgame? Because a lot of the time, endgame collapse, you're hooking that survivor, and the team will BT, take hits, whatever. And obviously, the smart thing to do is to try and go over the injured survivor, who's the one person you've just hooked. Now, the worst feeling in the world is, yeah, you've got that down, and they're crawling towards the gate. There's nothing you can do. There is no counter for the killer currently if DS Strike is still active and the doors are open. So, do you think DS Strike should still be active endgame collapse?
No.
I do. So I think for me, the way that I play, I don't really play endgame builds. Not since they changed, since they added the endgame collapse. I don't really play endgame builds. I used to play Pig, but I don't really anymore. And for me, if I haven't got any kills by the time I've lost all 5 of my gens, I've played really badly. And I think that denying survivors some of their strongest perks at the end game, well, if you've killed them all before the end game, well, then they don't get to use the Decisive Strike anyway. And if you haven't, then you probably haven't done very well that match. So I just feel like even though I am a killer main, I feel like from the survivor side, I think disabling it would be a bit too harsh. And I don't really think there's any way around it, because if you don't disable it, you'd have to nerf it in somehow, and there's no way of doing it where the killer won't then abuse that fact. You know what I mean? Like, the killer will then just use, however you change it, the killer will use that to just tunnel that person out of the game at the end. Because especially at the end game, when if the killer's got no kills, that's when they generally do tunnel, because it's like, well, I haven't got any kills, so I want to get my one.
Yeah. The same reason with Noah, by the way. It's like, you should not get rewarded as a killer if you don't manage to get a kill yet. It's just like you lost the game, move on, and dissolve, get out, because they have, like, in this moment where you have to tunnel because you played badly before, like, the survivors deserve to win because you played badly. And you like the same thing with, you should not get rewarded for a bad play, should be here the thing. I'm the killer main as well, and I was a killer main. I don't play a game anymore, but like, I would say the same thing that Tericho did, because I think it's like, if you want one side to be like, don't get rewarded for making mistakes, punish mistakes on the killer side as well. And in this moment, it's like, if you don't manage to kill people and they decisive strike you in the end game, you deserve the loss. And that's basically it.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, and it's something I've said before when I've spoken to people about Decisive Strike, is that sometimes it baffles me when you watch people playing and what they'll say is, okay, they've got Decisive Strike, so I'm not going to pick them up. And I'm like, well, actually, always analyse how the game's going, because if you've got time to eat that Decisive Strike, you get rid of it so you don't suffer from it if the game goes down to the end game. So it is something that I think I wouldn't change it working in endgame, and for the reason that you've said, Tericho, is that for me, if you're having to rely on that and it's happened, you probably don't deserve to get that kill anyway. So yeah, okay, so it's unanimous in regards to DS. Some good ideas there. I haven't actually seen that videos, but I am gonna go and watch it, and I'll probably link it above from Scott John in regards to that, because that sounds like a great idea to me. You know, DS, have it as long as you want, but as long as once you touch something, then that's it. You've lost that ability. Just the last couple of questions, guys. I know we're slightly running over, so this is for you, Tericho. A couple of questions that we've asked people who've come on. Favorite killer, favorite survivor.
Nice and easy. My favorite killer is Spirit, even though I never play her anymore. When I first started the game, I just loved her aesthetic. I loved her lore. I think her lore is the most interesting in the entire game. And I thought she was really cool. And I stopped playing her just because I didn't want survivors to just have a terrible match every game. So now I play Huntress more. Favorite survivor is David. I used to play Nia all the time because I like her cosmetics, but now I play David because he has a beard now.
That's a very good answer, yeah. Very good reason to do it. And finally then, your favourite perks. One killer perk, one survivor perk.
My killer one is easy. Barbecue and chili. I love barbecue and chili as a killer perk. It's just so good that even if I don't maybe do amazing, like if I get 0 kills, if I have barbecue, if I got 4 stacks of my barbecue and chili, I'm like, at least I know I'm going to get some good blood points. And then also it's really nice whenever you hook somebody to know where the other survivors are. So I think it's like a really good anti-tunnel perk, because it's like, if I see somebody on the other side of the map, I at least know where to go. And so I'm not going to hang around the hook. And survivor perk, there's a lot to choose from. I actually don't know. I'm okay. A controversial opinion. I think my favorite is Spine Chill, because I like being able to know whenever the killer's coming for me, and it allows me to kind of make plays and prepare. And I do think it is a little bit overpowered, but I think that being able to know if the killer is heading over to the gen that I'm working on and being able to either go and hide or go and do whatever, or if I'm going to, for example, go on a hook another survivor, and then I see Spine Chill light up, I know that the killer's about to come in and camp. So I think it's a really good information perk, and I also use it so I don't have to deal with Wraith.
All right, brilliant. So I think that's probably 2 perks that none of us have mentioned either. So I think every week we've all had different perks. So it's good to see the variety working there. All right, well, thank you very much, guys, for coming on. I am gonna give a shout out Potatolegion. I'll put a link up to your YouTube above, and feel free, guys, to go over and subscribe, check out his content. Same for Tericho, so your YouTube channel, and you've got a new one as well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Super Nerd Mode?
It is. That's my non-Dead by Daylight content all going on that one.
So if you've got your Dead by Daylight channel, but you've also got, if you want to know about other games, other reviews, other critics, then I will link that as well for you. So as always, guys, thank you very much for your time, and this will be the last podcast for 2020. I am going home for Christmas, so I won't be able to do it, but we'll resume again in January. All right, thanks, guys.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Alrighty, hope you enjoyed it, guys. That was the last episode for 2020, and we will be back in January with more episodes discussing everything Dead by Daylight. Wanted to say a special thank you to everyone who's joined in the podcast so far this series, and if you do enjoy the videos, guys, please give it a quick like, and if you haven't already done so, please consider pressing that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and you will be updated when I release any more videos. Alright, thanks, guys.